To my husband's female colleague, I do not know your Reddit name, but you finally gave me a reason to use this throwaway. I know you'll look through this sub after I got advice here telling you to come clean to me about your affair with my husband. I personally couldn't find a thread that fit the description, but could be an Aurangzeb, or you deleted it. If this message seems familiar to you, then yeah, it's directed at you. I don't have any intentions of reconnecting with you in the future, but I need to say a few things. I remember when we first met at that Christmas party and I noticed how you kept trying to pull my husband away to chat. You seemed pretty insistent and pouty about it. When he refused, I thought you would crack. Do you remember how all of his colleagues were friendly with me? I remember when you approached my husband and I walking home from my birthday dinner. I'm pretty sure this was a coincidence, but seeing my husband practically jump away from you trying to hug him was the highlight of my night. I know my husband is sexy, of course I know. I married him and had kids with him, but I bet you didn't know because you have only been at the company for a few months that your co-workers used to be. My co-workers, I know all about you, tried to get him alone after meetings, not only straight from my husband because you make him feel uncomfortable, but also from them. Did you believe I wouldn't confront you after those 2 times you accidentally sent him suggestive photos? Did you think you could actually win him over? Did you check out his Instagram and envy his life thinking, I want that, I just need to deceive his wife and it's all mine? Did you expect that by showing up at my door while I was hosting a dinner party, hoping to reveal printouts of your conversations with him, I would just lose it and rush into divorcing him? I'm pretty sure I've spoken to you already about your inappropriate behavior and misuse of his personal file. I'm sure you were shocked. Maybe you didn't think my husband would report it. I don't know what repercussions you will get and I don't care. But if you come near me, my husband, our kids, or our nice home again, police will be called. A word of advice: if you're going to fabricate messages, you might want to get rid of the wrong number or at least replace it with a name. Now for the top comments before reading the update. I desperately need to find this woman's post because I am so invested in the drama. I'm sorry you and your family are going through this, but it's like a car crash. I can't help but keep thinking about this situation. It's kind of hard to turn away from, you know. How would you feel if you were dealing with the same stuff? Honestly, I'm pretty puzzled. I can't figure out if she's seeking payback because your husband didn't want to have an affair with her or if she actually believes in what she's saying. It's like trying to solve a mystery. Could be either way. Maybe she's struggling with some mental stuff, really convinced that the things she's imagining are real. Or maybe she's purposefully trying to get back at your husband and your family because he said no to any affair like you mentioned. It's all quite confusing and hard to figure out. If you need more help making sense of this or want to talk it over, I'm here to lend a hand. Regardless, she sounds dangerous. Please stay safe. Oh man, I hope some handy Redditor finds the mentioned post. I could swear I did read pretty much this exact story from this other woman this week, except she truly didn't seem to understand how ridiculously inappropriate she was being to the married guy. Just totally schoolgirl crushing on a guy, try to flirt at work and inappropriately cornering the guy and trying to get him alone. All he has got a wife, but it's just too hard to stop myself until I read it. Ripped her a few new ones. I remember a post like that a few days ago, but I think it was a neighbor she was crushing on and not a co-worker. She was fully convinced he was also in love with her, even though nothing indicated that was the case. Honestly, I tried looking forward to when she handed me a printout. She had an entire monologue memorized with apologies and mentioned read it a few times, but I couldn't find anything when I looked at that night. It could have been a different sub where she deleted it. I had a co-worker who did something similar about 20 years ago. This woman was really fixated on a married co-worker who had been kind to her and helped train her at work. Even though this co-worker's wife also worked at the same place but in a different part, this woman was pretty open about wanting to be with him, even if it meant ignoring his marriage. Things got really intense as she started stalking and bothering his wife, even confronting her at a group gathering. But things took a turn when she attacked the wife, who didn't hesitate to defend herself and ended up getting this woman arrested. People are nuts. Wow, they really are out there. Many update. She has been fired with immediate effect. I will update when we know our next steps. Thank you for the support so far. Now for the full update. First, I want to say thank you to everyone who supported my husband and I to first post. This might go on for a little bit, so I'm sorry in advance. I probably won't be as articulate as I was in my first post. I never found her post, by the way. If all you want is the update, skip to the bottom line. But a few people implied that there was no smoke without fire. Usually, I would agree and have been on the other side making these comments myself on my actual account. My husband saw the comments on Reddit and thought it might be important to share more about what happens before He's a big shot in the marketing team at a company. They team up closely with the event team for different projects. When they join forces for a project, no matter the size, they have to sit through lots of meetings. The bigger the project, the more meetings they need to plan everything out. It's a big deal for them to get these projects done right. My husband worked very closely with a colleague that went on maternity leave. The woman was highly recommended by a senior employee in the events team. So after she had trainings on systems and brought up to speed by her department head at my husband for a big project, he was friendly towards her. He remained professional at all times, had meetings they had were often never alone. The project was a success, and then another big project landed in their laps. It was at this time the woman started acting strange just before the Christmas period, asking for clarification after meetings when the points had been discussed thoroughly. When my husband rebuffed this and directed her to her own manager and escalated to offering to discuss work matters over coffee. So, this woman regularly had lunch and dinner with your husband many times a week, even using her work email to tell him he looked good. It's odd that after meeting you at a Christmas party and feeling down because she couldn't get your husband alone, just a few days later, he starts sending her pictures via social media. You didn't see the first picture until after she apologized to you in person. That's quite a series of events. If there's more you want to share or discuss about this, I'm here to help. He accepted her apology before checking his messages when he was back at home with me. She had put in sorry wrong person message straight after it. So when it clicked that message, the first picture was there, which she could have deleted before he actually saw the message. A week later, a similar thing happens with a second picture on a different social media platform. He saw who had a message was from and asked me to open it. It was a little more provocative than before, but when she apologized, she asked him if he told me about the pictures. She didn't want me to get a wrong idea, as they were both previously a drunken mistake. She was not a friend on any of the social media, so I don't know how she thought that was an excuse. On my birthday, something strange happened. When this woman went in for a hug with my husband, he quickly moved away, feeling uneasy about her behavior. Surprisingly, after that incident, her actions toned down a bit. She stopped asking him out for work discussions as often. But then, something happened last Monday. As an update, she got fired for inappropriate behavior and serious misconduct. That's a significant turn of events. If there's more to this story or anything else you want to share, feel free to let me know. And this has led to someone else being suspended pending investigation. As my husband and I were both working from home due to the events that happened last week, I wasn't aware at the time of my post that she had been suspended pretty much straight after my husband reported this to HR. On Wednesday, he handed over at a tax exchange the messages on social media with proof he never responded, and he printed out the work emails he had received. Also, the reason for the rapid response was due to the nature of the allegations, but I can confirm she was fired yesterday. I have not been told, which is sad, but she did not try to raise any allegation against my husband in my comments. I explained a little about the HR department's system. The company uses an electronic personal database, which only our employees can log into. No other employees should have access to this system. Yet the employee in the city department gave the woman an authorized access to the HR system. A report was run, and she had been in my husband's file 34 times. I don't know what she actually did in there, but apparently there were so many amendments that they had to restore his file from a recent backup. The aita employee got suspended while they look into what happened. I don't have many details beyond that because it's not my role to know all the specifics. I'm just sharing what my husband and some former colleagues have told me. It's been a whirlwind in the last 48 hours, but I'm relieved that this story got shared on different platforms. A family member of hers came across a post and reached out to apologize for what the woman did. It's been quite a roller coaster. If you need any guidance or want to discuss this more, I'm here for you. After a few messages were exchanged, we had a very long telephone conversation. I will not go into specifics due to their privacy. However, I can say the following things with permission. The woman has been fixated on other men before, resulting in her having an order of protection against her and her needing treatment. The family believes this is due to a traumatic event she witnessed when she was a child. She is normally very stable when she has medication. The only problem with that is when she is stable. She believes she's completely healthy and stops taking the medication, causing a relapse. The person that she had a tax exchange with was her teenage niece, who was not aware of her aunt's condition. The niece was under the impression it was a joke, then became scared when we called Wednesday morning, so she hung up. She told her family about what happened, and on that same day they discovered that the woman had been suspended. Her family stumbled upon a post where I mentioned something about the tax exchange, And after checking with the woman to confirm, they got my husband's name. Now the woman is staying with other relatives who live about 4 hours away from where we are. It's quite a twist in events. If there's anything you'd like to discuss or need further clarification, feel free to ask. We will be contacted if she goes missing from their care, especially while the medication is working its way back into our system. We will not be pressing charges at present, but we have logged this with the police, especially after talking about it with our friend. And her family are aware of this. Our security is being updated within the next 2 weeks. The school and daycare are also aware of the people who can and can't drop off. Pick up my kids with photos of them. They have also been provided a photo of her and to contact my husband and Rai if they see her near to schools or items to pick my children up. Hopefully I won't need to provide a further update to this, and I'm going to have a bottle of wine and hopefully my husband and I will have a very good night's sleep. He found a post and realized that some of the text exchange matched a reference in my comments. It might be the part where I mentioned being kicked out of my house with my kids, as that was the only part I was quite clear about. But I don't have direct knowledge of what else might be happening within their family behind the scenes, as I didn't have a direct conversation with her. It's a bit of a mystery about what's going on in their world, apart from what's been shared. If you want to explore this further or need more information, I'm here to help. Yikes, what a saga. Glad situation has been figured out and dealt with so you can begin to exhale. What's all hope? The former colleague continues to get the help she desperately needs. Hard to imagine how traumatized her brain must be. Yeah, I feel a little guilty for posting now, but it ultimately did get her to help and support she needs. You shouldn't feel guilty. Look at all the good that has come from the post. Her family is aware and hopefully she can get some help. She's with her support system. That is the best case outcome. And you and your husband know you are safe for now, so you can relax and heal a bit. You did well. This is so scary. Glad she was fired. What do you mean by amendments? I'm assuming she was editing stuff on your husband's file. She had changed a lot of information on his file. I'm not allowed to know the exact extent, but she had access to everything HR would. They managed to confirm that she didn't access anyone else's file. Also, in the amendments were reverted back when the backup was restored. I think she might have switched herself to be the emergency contact. I'm relieved I didn't look at anyone else's file by mistake. But I'm still wondering, did you ever come across her old post? Was that just made up? Was she trying to mislead her husband? It's all pretty puzzling. I have loads of questions, but no answers. I never did find that post with lots of people throwing around suggestions and wild stories. It was overwhelming and I couldn't keep up with all the craziness. I looked through them and none of them matched, but I honestly don't know what I'm looking for, because she either fully believes she was having an affair with my husband and posted about that, or she admitted she lied to get me out the way. I also think it's a possibility she has posted but changed too many details to remain anonymous, so I couldn't recognize it. I didn't ask her family for a post history when we spoke. She never baked anything for my husband. She wasn't in a relationship either. Commentaries in the OGE post saying, well, where there's smoke, like, yeah, the fire. Was Opai's husband being harassed? My first thought based on Opai's description was that she was talking him. As time went on, I started to believe she might have pulled something similar before. There were too many things happening that made me think my husband was telling the truth, especially because Opai was still talking to coworkers who confirmed everything. Here's the last story. There's this guy at work who's giving me the silent treatment because I don't agree with his ideas. He's a guy in his late 30s or early 40s at work who bought me something. This guy, who's 29 years old, has asked me out a few times, but I've said no each time. Every time he's asked why, I've made it clear that I'm not interested. Despite that, he keeps leaving chocolates and sweets on my desk. I've told him that I don't need all that food and it's affecting my health, so I asked him to stop. I've also explained to him that I'm trying to be healthier overall. I also don't want to accept because I feel is doing it to pick up and I don't want to give the wrong idea. Last week I returned from lunch and he had a tray of sweets for me that he had purchased while on his lunch. I was so full for my lunch that I'm really trying with my diet and gym, so I said no thanks. Give them to someone else in the office perhaps. He got very annoyed, but now he's given me the solid treatment, since this includes saying hi-bye to everyone but me daily. I find it kind of funny, to be honest. I felt bad at first for rejecting a nice gesture, but now I just feel his overreacting. Adding on, yes, it's good he is leaving me alone, but the absolute silent treatment does make it awkward because I do have to work with this person. At it right now, I am not going to report him to HR or kick up a fuss. I merely made this post to get it off my chest. I'm also not worried. I no longer get attention from him as it was unwanted. I'm just feeling awkward about his situation. Thanks all. Now for the advice. Please report this to someone. It's essential to create a record of what's happening in case things get worse. It's clear this person isn't respecting your boundaries. I had a coworker who was ignoring me and I realized it might have been because of my sense of humor that didn't sit well with everyone. It was starting to affect the work environment. I've since changed my workspace so I don't interact with them as much, but I've learned that they've been treating more experienced colleagues the same way, and those senior folks aren't pleased about it. I was actually relieved to hear that it wasn't just me. I mentioned all of this to HR or a supervisor. If you have one, you trust coworkers who cannot and will not communicate will always negatively affect the workplace. Haha, good. Now you can ignore him, and peers tell HR, they'll even get snarky. Now tell HR now and tell Morph continues. This is best. He wants to be ahead of a problem with HR so they can take immediate action if he does it again. Otherwise, they might say, this is the first time we are hearing of this, so we've noted it for now instead of actually helping you. This reminds me of something that happened to me when I was working at a little cafe in Hawaii that was going through a really hard breakup, just trying to save money and get back on my feet. I got to know a guy at work who was also from the same area as me, the East Coast of the US. We connected over that and had a good laugh together, forming a platonic friendship. One day, we went for lunch together and we both paid for our own meals. Then he offered to sell me a bit of weed. It was definitely not a date or anything like that. When we were about to part ways, he leaned in and attempted to kiss me on the lips and after a way, and said, "Whoa, were you just about to kiss me?" And it says, what can I say? I'm bold. I let him know I wasn't looking for anything romantic and asked if we were cool. And he says, yes. From that point forward, he proceeded to give me a solid treatment at work. And when I confronted him to ask what was up, he just pretended like everything was fine, and then continued to ignore me. And this kind of thing has happened to me multiple times over the years. It's definitely a thing guys getting, continued to ignore me. And this kind of thing has happened to me multiple times over the years. It's definitely a thing guys getting, but hurts upon rejection.